Welcome to Slasher Sunday. So, we are on the ninth film in the franchise, Jason Goes to Hell, the special features for the new Scream Factory box set. Um, yeah, wow, okay. So, every time I watch this movie, I like it less. That's for sure. And this time I got to watch it with somebody, and this was her first time. And she, I kind of prepped her before this, being like, okay, she'd seen 1 through 7. And I had already watched 8, and I was like, hey, you just want to watch this? And she's like, all right. So we watch it, and I'm like, you're not prepared for what you're about to watch. I'm like, make your own judgment, of course, but you know, I don't think you understand what you're about to watch. And she absolutely loathed the film, just like myself. This movie has a lot of fans. You know, I shouldn't say a lot. I don't know what the percentage is, but there are some pretty diehard fans of this, and that's fine if you dig it. I just think that this movie is a gigantic mistake and stain on the franchise. But it always comes down to opinion, right? Like, the people who love this film will be mad at any time anybody doesn't agree with them because how maligned this film is. And I feel like it's for good reason. Like, just like Kane Hodder says in some of these special features, he himself even is like, I feel like this film is too different. It's fine to try different things, but you just can't go overboard. And this movie goes beyond overboard. It's way, way, way beyond. I don't ever use the term jumping the shark, but this movie fucking jumped 100 sharks. It's wacky. Um, Now, the director of this movie is about 99% of my notes here because he does the commentary track, which is brand new, and he does an interview, which is new, and he talks a lot. He talks a lot, a lot, a lot. Like, and that's what you're there for, right? I mean, it's the commentary, it's this and that. But what was funny about it is the special features for the other films, the ones that I like, they're all like 10 minutes long or less. And then I go and press play on each one of these special features, and every one of them is 30 to 40 minutes long. And I'm like, why? Why on the film that I hate in this franchise do I have to watch the longest special features? But yeah, the commentary for it, this guy definitely, the majority of what he does the entire time he talks about this film is defends every fucking thing about it. Like, I feel like I'm listening to a guy who has dealt with a lot of pushback on this film and constantly has to point out why it's actually good and why people are ridiculous for not liking it. Like, he uses their own logic against them, and he's like, oh, I take them and I walk them through the film, and I'm like, oh, so you don't like the look of Jason? And they're like, oh, no, no, I love it, I think it's one of the best in the franchise. And he's like, oh, you don't like the kills? Oh, no, it has some of the best in the franchise. Oh, you don't like Creighton Duke? Oh, no, he's one of the greatest characters in the franchise. And oh, you don't like that he's killed in the opening. And I'll say, oh, no, it was really cool. It was. I'm not with him on any of these things. I hate the look of Jason in this movie. I think it looks awful. I don't like Creighton Duke's character. I don't like, the only thing I do like is the one of the kills in particular, the girl getting cut up the middle, of course, which is honestly one of the best kills in the franchise. There's no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean the movie's good or even redeemable because of one kill. And there's other great special effects in this. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about that. You can watch my 30-minute long discussion about this film that I did years ago if you want to hear me talk specifically about that film. So now, this Adam Marcus was a friend of the family's. He was friends with Sean S. Cunningham's son, Nolan, I think is what he said. And he grew up with them. And I guess this kind of got his foot in the door, and he was actually the person who came up with the script for what would become My Boyfriend's Back. And when they took that movie and they kind of made it without him, it was one of these things where he was like, "All right, you owe me a movie. Like that should have been my movie." Johnny Zombie. It was, I think, the original title for that film, but it was supposed to be more adult. And of course, My Boyfriend's Back is much more family friendly. But he's like, "You owe me a movie," and then they're like, "Okay." So they like brought him on and they hired him to write Friday 9 when he was 23 years old. He started filming, or 21. Yeah, he was hired when he was 21. He started filming when he was 23, and the film got released when he was 25. So, I mean, he was very, very young. But my God, does he defend every single second of this film throughout like he's being attacked in real time. Which I can understand to a degree, but I have to say, I wasn't a huge fan of the guy, mostly because I just disagree with every single thing that he says. Like this, and that's okay. That's okay. I don't have to like the guy, and I'm sure there's nothing wrong with the guy in real life. I'm not like trashing the dude on a personal level. Just as a director and as somebody who's like a fan of this franchise, he talks about stuff in the commentaries and then the special features. Like he does really shitty things. Like he shits on the look of Jason without a mask, and he kind of trashes them for even showing his face, because he thinks that's where the terror actually lies, is what you don't see. So he's like, and they all looked like, I think specifically he was like, they all look like basically mentally retarded. Like he was just like, I can't remember the impression that he does, but I was just like, really? Like you're shitting on the look of Jason when he's shown? Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, it's fine to have your opinion on whether or not Jason should ever be shown, but there's some really great glimpses of Jason without his mask, and I find it a little ironic because I personally think the look of Jason in this with his mask on, that's completely, uh, you know, smushed into his fucking face, I think looks horrible. I think the suit, I don't like the look at all. It's just not a look that I enjoy. But yeah, I think that's I think that's terrible. And then he's trashing the look of Jason. He also shit on Jason X pretty hard. Like once a fucking franchise goes into space, it's dead. Like look what they did there. He's shitting on a lot of the other films, like just to kind of bring him down to like his film, where he's like, "Oh well, they did this one and this one and this one and this one. This was so ridiculous. I mean, how is my movie any different? How am I really pushing it too far? This is a bridge too far for you guys. Ridiculous." And I'm like, dude, that's there's no reason to kind of trash other films. I don't want to say he outright trashes them, but it definitely seems like he thinks he has the superior sequel of the franchise. And you see, something I was talking to my girlfriend about after we watched this, I was like, this film feels like the third part to a trilogy. This feels like there's so much exposition, there's so much extra story that's missing from this film that it's pretty much incoherent, because this is the 9th film in the franchise, and in fact he says that in this thing. He's like, whether you like it or not, whatever, he's like, this is canon, this is part of the franchise, this is the 9th entry in the franchise, and what I did here, putting the things that I did into it, that's part of the mythos now. This is part of this and that. And so with that, he just, there's 8 other films that come before this, and it's like, he says, it's like, well, this is part 9. It's like, but is it? How is this film part 9 of anything? It feels like part 2 or 3 of something, or shit, it does feel maybe like a part 9 of a completely different franchise, of a franchise that has completely different story beats and story elements and just mythos and world building. And that's what he was trying to do. And he brought up the MCU a lot, and like how everyone wants everything connected these days, and like he was kind of ahead of the curve, and a lot of back patting for sure, with himself, a lot of and I get it. I'm sure his, you know, he makes this film when he's a kid, and then he's shit on royally by a lot of fans, and he has just turned that into him um, congratulating himself because that's what makes him feel better about his film. And he says he's proud of the film, and that's fucking great, man. And there are people who love this. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think that shitting on other movies in the way that he did is the wrong approach to handle that, and just to defend every single little thing. I don't know. I guess that's fine. I did get pretty annoyed. And as I said, I'm biased because I disagreed with like everything he was saying because I really don't think he has a good vision, and I just don't think he understands this franchise. I really just don't. Like, even though he grew up around it, and he was on set for this and that, and he saw them all in theaters the day they came out, and saw them all 10 times, and like, you can be a fan of the franchise, that's fine. But there was just things that he was saying about the story as of, you know, the point in time that it was. He was talking about Ginny's character, and he was talking about Alice's kill in the second film, and how Jason must have got there, and then, you know, years pass and blah blah blah. And he was just kind of breaking down the lack of continuity and this and that, and it's like, you're going to give shit to these films when your film is a complete incoherent mess. Like, and the film is unbelievably like boring to me for a film that's this insane. It's like it's like so much is happening and nothing's happening because of how crazy everything is. It feels like so much is happening, but then I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my god, is anything happening with this right now? And for a while I'm like, no, because I don't care about anything. And the young guy in this movie, I found out was supposed to be the dude with the glasses who ends up being like the main protagonist of the film. He was supposed to be Tommy Jarvis. That was how he had written him to be. But then New Line Cinema, who had bought the rights to this, had not acquired the rights to Tommy Jarvis, so it was a no-go. But in his head, in his canon, that guy is Tommy Jarvis. So there's that to be said for it. Now I feel like Tommy Jarvis in it would just confuse things even more. You know, introducing a sister and introducing, you know, relation at this point. There needs to be a better build up to those things. There needs to be, you know, a setup to accept things that are so like new to an old franchise. Like, go ahead, make your own thing, but man, you gotta at least try to keep it within the realm of this franchise. And you know, okay, I'm beating a dead horse now. I really am with this one, but fuck in A. He was told to ignore Part 8 straight out. That's interesting. He was a PA on House 4, so as I said, very close to the Cunninghams there. Penny Marshall, the director, supposedly sent him a note telling him what a big fan of Jason Goes to Hell that she was. Okay. And this film was the 13th anniversary of the Friday the 13th franchise, so I think that's pretty cool. But he was not allowed to feature the number 13 anywhere. They could only say Friday and the word Jason, so they had to make that into the title. But there was no Friday the 13th allowed on the poster, hence why Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, and Jason Goes to Hell are all Jason films versus Friday the 13th films, because those are all the films that were owned by them at that time. And the original title of this film was like Friday the 13th Heart of Darkness, which he said he based upon an Orson Welles dream project that eventually became Apocalypse Now. This was an extremely pretentious discussion that he was having about how he was going to put in all these like social commentaries, metaphors, this and that into a Friday the 13th movie. And I just, man, I'm all about ambition and whatnot, but this one was Fuck. Okay. Focus. I'm not shitting on the movie anymore. And I get, yeah, he says like Jason is in this movie a whole ton. Like people always complain Jason is in the movie, but really all they can't disconnect themselves from is the hockey mask, and that's just bullshit. That's just outright nonsense. It would be one thing. Here's the thing. Because if you cut Jason's hockey mask off and he was walking around, people wouldn't be as mad. There's no way. So that's bullshit. That one alone, but like the body swapping thing, um, the biggest problem by far for me of the body swapping thing is the performance of the actors playing Jason. Jason should be Jason. Jason should be acting like Jason. He should be walking like Jason. He shouldn't be strapping a guy to a table and shaving off his mustache so that he can, pass on this little demon thing that's inside him. Like, what is that? What is that scene? And in this, he says that that's the question he gets asked the most is, what is that scene? And his response is, I knew you guys would be talking about this 20 years later. And that's why I did it. And that also because he essentially made it seem like modern audiences of the time were inherently homophobic, and the thing that would have scared them the most would have been intimacy between two men, kissing men mouth to mouth, whatever. So he put that in there to scare people because they're running from their own prejudice or something. As I said, it's some pretentious ass shit. It's just a dumbass scene that you probably thought was funny. And he said that, he has no interest in films that are horror straight. Like, he doesn't want any horror movies that are straight at all. He wants comedy in every horror movie he watches. If he doesn't have horror in it, if he doesn't have comedy in his horror, he's not into it. Then he goes on to praise how much he loves The Thing and Halloween. Where's the comedy in The Thing? Where's the comedy in Halloween? There isn't any. There could be a few little playful moments with like Linda or something that are technically comedic, but he's talking about like Sam Raimi is his idol and he wants to be Sam Raimi, and this is why he put the Necronomicon that was actually on the set of Army of Darkness, where he got it. And he says that this franchise is officially, because of his canon, officially linked to the Evil Dead franchise. And of course we have the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise crossing over here as well later on. But yeah, all right. Let's focus. I got notes. He said they spent months casting this film. I don't like a single cast member in this entire film, but this is my bias because I don't like the movie. But I'm not saying they did a bad job. I'm not at all. I don't know. This film feels so rushed. It feels so like it's an insane movie. It really, really is. The Voorhees sign has one O instead of two. He personally says that he can't stand that. He wished he could fix that digitally. He talked a lot about going digitally and fixing things in this movie. Very George Lucas of him. And he says he's very proud that no one's ever going to forget this movie. No one's ever going to forget this movie because it's dreadful. So I don't know if that's something to be proud of, but I mean, I guess, as I said, you want to be happy about it. I'm not here to say you shouldn't be. Just, I don't know. There's a Halloween homage in this, which he pointed out with the glass on the lawn after someone's pushed through the window. That's cool. I noticed it the second he said it. I was like, oh yeah, duh. Adam came up with the Freddy versus Jason scene, so he says, and they didn't have the plans for it at that time, and he called up the studio and he asked them, and he said they instantly said yes. It was the fastest remark he ever got. And he also put the Necronomicon in the film, which is pretty wild to watch. Sean S. Cunningham, the rights kind of reverted back to him when it went to, you know, New Line Cinema, and Sean went to Adam Marcus and he was like, "Look, you can do the movie. All I want you to do is get rid of the mask." I guess because Sean wasn't involved in that hockey mask, he was like, "Get rid of it." Getting rid of a mask and blowing your character up and having him body swap by like someone eating his heart and all that. I don't even know what to do with that kind of stuff. And the director plays a role in this movie as one of the young cops, a deputy, I guess. And the original cut of this film was 2 hours plus long. And he says that film is dreadfully boring. Well, I think this film is dreadfully boring, so I can't imagine with 30 more minutes of this fucking film would do. And he actually was against them showing the demon running in to that chick's pussy because he just thought that was too much. And he's like, "Oh, it's too," and I'm like, "Really, bro? With everything you pulled in this film, you really think like the audience? We already feel like we're getting fucked here, so might as well watch someone get fucked." And let's see. Yeah, I already talked about all that. Yeah. Then we get the interviews with him where he's going on and on, defending his film as usual. And yeah, let's see. He wanted to make his own Evil Dead, so he tried to bring them into this universe, and that's where he said, like, it's canon to me that the Evil Dead franchise is part of this franchise because of those scenes that he shot. And he swears up and down he had never seen Hidden before he made this movie. I don't know. Yes, they're very similar. Do I think it's possible? It's possible he's lying. I don't know what, though. And yeah, we talked about all that. He also claims that he thinks that the real base for horror is not men, not boys, but teenage girls. That they're really the target audience. Okay, even though I don't think that's true. What does that have to do with anything with this film? Because I can assure you that if you took a bunch of like 15-year-old girls to this movie, they would walk out of there before it ended, A, but B, they'd be like, "What the fuck was that?" So this was you trying to appeal to young girls, like teenagers? Like, what? With this film, of all the fucking films in this franchise, that's the group that you think should be there? I do not see that being. Yeah. So he asks for the Necronomicon on the set of Army of Darkness, and he's handed it in a plastic bag. Then he asks, Robert Shea, if he can have the Freddy glove, and they instantly say yes. And some like dude with it like attached to his arm brings it in, with serious security around it, and Kane Hodder threw the glove on, which is. You can see his arm is clearly not burnt, which is kind of ironic, seeing as how Kane Hodder actually is pretty burnt. But anyways, he's I don't know. Obviously it's Freddy, right? It's Freddy's fucking arm. It should be burnt. It's clearly not burnt at all under the thing. So it is what it is. But he wanted that scene in there. But when they delivered the glove had to come in like a locked box. Big thick lock box, and it was handcuffed to some security dude who brought it, and they shot their scene with it and immediately like locked it back up and took it back. So very serious to get that kind of piece of cinema there. And let's see. Yeah, I know I already talked about it, but him saying that boys are afraid of kissing boys and that's what's gonna scare him. Okay. I guess maybe that's true with how much people hate fucking Nightmare on Elm Street 2 because of the gay undertones. Such a stupid reason to hate something. And he said that he wanted the characters to have relatability and have real lives. Dude, yet again, this is where I just disagree. I don't think any of that's happening in this movie. I just don't. I don't see it. I like I like that he says that, like, well, I mean, I was kind of had my back against the wall because Jason is a voiceless killer, and I can't have him speak. And I'm like, that's the line for you with all this shit in. Do you really think I would have thought this was all that different had Jason fucking started speaking in this film? I don't. I would just be like, I'd feel the exact same way about it I do right now. I don't see it hurting the film or helping the film, but. Yeah, they take the Freddy glove immediately back in the lockbox. He takes it and they leave, and they never see it again. So, but these are the real deals, right? That must be the real glove if he's bringing it like that. I just feel like this guy is totally married to a script that he wrote when he was 22 years old. Like, it's okay to kind of, critique your work of the past. That's everybody's going to do that. But man, this dude has fond memories of this movie and how much he appreciates it and loves it, and he wants to talk about it all the time. You can tell, as long as that, discussion involves some praise towards him. And let's see. He says that he loves that this film is now being regarded as a gay horror movie, and that horror should be all inclusive and boundary pushing. That this is a risky genre of film, so if you're going to already be taking risks, I think I'm putting words into his mouth here, but this is essentially what he's getting at. But this is, that it should be pushing boundaries and all that, right? Like I said, this I actually agree with. I actually do agree with this. I think that horror is a good place to push boundaries. I know there's some people out there that watch horror reviews and watch horror movies and watch movies in general and just shit on the idea of all inclusivity. Like, they're just like, oh, fuck, I don't want that shoved down my throat. Like, they can be background actors or they can be foreground actors. We just not talk about their sexuality? But of course, then if there's loads and loads of heterosexuality in a film, nobody ever has a problem. But if you put homosexuality in it, there's an agenda. It's a total double standard. It's so fucking stupid. But I like that he said that because I agree. And oh my god, the dumbest thing. I'm gonna make a video on this soon. I've had it with this whole. He's like, oh well, if you look before Scream, the '90s were really like having a hard time struggling. It was such a dark era for horror. Really? This is, as I said, this is what I want to make a video on. Is like Scream saved horror. Horror was in a state of disarray. It was completely shit. It was not going anywhere. In the first year of 1990s. So in 1990, The Silence of the Lambs wins Best Picture and is one of the all-time masterpieces of cinema. And then you have Misery. The list goes on. As I said, I'm going to make the video myself. In the Mouth of Madness, stuff like that. Stuff I love. I think is so smart and cool. And then Scream came around. And Scream to me is Dawson's Creek, meets fucking My Super Sweet 16, My Super Psycho Sweet 16, or whatever that fucking trilogy was on MTV. And then that's preceded by, Urban Legend and I Know What You Did Last Summer and a bunch of shit. Like, if you look, just go to the 90s. Okay, I'm going to do this video later, but go to 90s horror and look at all the amazing ones. Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, whatever, Misery. Go through the 90s, and I guarantee you that 90% of the awesome horror is on the younger side, then, or I guess the older side, however that would work. On the other side of Scream, so anything became before it, 95 and before. That's all fucking Scream. That's all because, or that's all in the early 90s. That's all before fucking Scream. Scream to me trashed horror for years and years. So this argument is fucking asinine to me. And I really wasn't liking this guy at this point, but when he said that, I was like, oh God, you're one of those people. You're one of, and this is so common. This is a lot of my good friends, a lot of people whose opinions I respect heavily. They're just fucking wrong. Horror was thriving. The horror was, it was doing amazingly. They were making some of the best films in the genre at that time. And then Scream came around and it completely cheapened everything. I know what you did last summer. Seriously, Urban Legend. Seriously, you're going to put that up against fucking Shawshank Redemption or Shawshank Redemption. What the fuck I'm talking about? Silence of the Lambs, or, you know, look at the Candyman. Candyman blows away Scream. I know what you did last summer. Any of those movies. They're fucking, it's far superior. The 90s was saved by Scream. Get the fuck out of here with this stupid ass comment. I hate it. I hate hearing it. Please go to Google. Seriously, do it. Go to Google and put in 90s horror and look at all the horror that was great pre 96 and post 96. Guarantee you the early 90s is going to be extremely lopsided with good horror, and now granted, there are going to be people who are like, I know what you did last summer, and Urban Legend and Scream are all great. So you're going to have those to go with. But I feel like everything I mentioned is superior to any of those things, like far and away for myself, but even for people who like them. So, like, can we please drop this whole Scream saved fucking horror in the 90s? Get the fuck out of here. 90s was dying. Stupid. Let's see. He loves that people hate it. That was another thing. That's fine. I don't care about that. I guess I do kind of care a little bit because he is there for the fans. That's why he does this, right? He's not making a movie for himself. He's making a movie for everybody. So for him to be kind of giddy about the fact that people hate it, I don't know. It just kind of feels like a little bit of a slap in the face. But yet again, I think this is one of his techniques he's using to guard himself from all the hate he's received for the film. And I can understand that. He tried something new. He tried something unique. And it was when he was in his early 20s. So what are you going to do? The guy he's very passionate about his film and seemingly about the franchise. So whatever. And the Arsenio Hall, this is when Kane Hodder, that was actually Kane Hodder who came on to his talk show and sat there and never said anything. It was great to have that memory brought back up. I totally remember that. Yeah, I already said that. I didn't realize that Kane Hodder was used for the video game. That one that's on like Xbox and PS4 and all that. I had no idea that they brought him in to record, and he said they recorded for like 2 years. It's crazy. So it's cool. They did some mocap on him, and all of the kills in the game are actually Kane Hodder. Well, at least a lot of them anyway. Kane takes some time to really talk pretty deep and intimate about his scars that he has because of the fire that almost killed him, and how he kind of recovered from that, and how he went back to doing flame stunts. And his favorite moment as Jason is when he's caught on fire in Beakler's Part 7. So I think that's pretty cool, and he talks about, you know, overcoming that and whatnot. That's cool stuff. I couldn't imagine being burned like that. And yeah, I think I named mostly everything I want to talk about, but man, this was a very masturbatory commentary by him. It was just him going on and on and on about why things are so good and why the franchise needed this, and that audiences needed to be challenged, and that people should really love this movie because all of their arguments against it are ill-founded and not really well thought out, and people are hypocritical. You just, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't like the film at all, so what am I to say? But anyways, I'm done talking about this fucking movie. This had the best special features, but it's the one I didn't want the special features on, so it is what it is. But all right, Jason X next time. Probably skip next week because I'm going to be in California for like a week with my girlfriend, but I'll get to it ASAP. But anyways, adios.